Hi there, I'm Toni Reece of the P.E.O.P.L.E Academy, and I am here with Twila Fisher. She's going to tell you what she does in a minute, but we are here at Hobarts Run in Pottstown, and I'm very excited to talk to Twila because not only is she doing some very cool things in this community, but she's using a strategy based on the acronym of the word PEOPLE. And very quickly, I'll go through that with you. PEOPLE is performance, efficacy, ownership, possibility, linkage, and evidence. And we're going to go through that. So, hey.
Hi, Toni.
How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for being here in Pottstown.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here. So take a moment, tell us what you do and a little bit about Hobarts Run.
Okay. What I do for the Hill School is I'm their manager of community and economic development. And what I do for Hobarts Run is that I'm the executive director. So Hobarts Run is a neighborhood district that was started by the Hill School, but is now spun off into its own entity, its own 501c3. It is almost 100% still funded by the Hill School, however, so there's a lot of linkage there, a lot of tie-in, and a lot of support from the Hill School. I couldn't do what I do without the faculty, students, administration at the Hill School. Hobarts Run was named that after, because everyone asks, like, how does it get its name and why and who's Hobart and all this. So Hobart actually was a prominent family in Pottstown, so that name does exist and has legacy here. But Hobarts Run is actually a stream that it comes off of Sprogle's Run, and it goes through Pottstown, and it feeds one of the only large pond we have on campus. And so they just decided to call it, it was before my time, but they said this is something that everyone in Pottstown can relate to. It's not so much about the Hill School, but this actually is a thing in Pottstown. So,
and there's a legacy, you said, you told me earlier that there are Hobarts.
Hobart as a family name.
Okay,
yeah.
As a family.
Yeah.
So you're going to introduce us to this strategy, and we're going to go through it quickly. But if we look at the word people, because it's all the work that you do is about people.
Yes.
Okay, and community development and neighborhood improvement. And so if we look at the first part of the acronym, which is performance, and we talk about what does great look like as far as performance, how does that apply to a community? What does great look like with the work you do performance-wise into a community?
So that when I thought about great, I had to go and look up the definition of great. And so I have some notes here to keep me on track because I like to talk and I ramble sometimes. But so the definition of great is when you are bringing something to considerably above the normal or average. So then I had to think about, well, what's the baseline? Because you can't really know what you've risen above until you know where you started. And we really started with nothing. There was a white paper. That's it. And some community meetings. But so what I think of great, the past 2 years have been great because we started from scratch and now have a bunch of programs rolled out. There are people involved and engaged, residents in Hobarts Run. And by the way, I didn't say, but Hobarts Run is 600 parcels around the school. So it goes out a couple streets in every direction from the school, and so it is like a little community outside of the Hill School community, but it's the residents who, some of them have lived here for 30 years, so people who are very invested in Pottstown and are wonderful people. So when I think about great, I think about the people that live in the homes here and that run businesses here and go to church here and send their kids to schools here, and how we are now rallying around common goals to make this neighborhood safer and cleaner and more inclusive, and that to me is great.
People may not associate the word safe with great, but I'll bet if they think about it, they would.
Yeah.
So that is fantastic. So as a performance issue, and there are a lot of great initiatives that you are working on, okay? And I love that part of the strategy, because if you don't know what great looks like, how can you have a baseline, but how do you know where you're going?
Yeah.
And you don't want it to look, you don't want to say, well, it's going to look average.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So we want it to be great.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the second point of the acronym is efficacy, which is a funky term, but it's all about achieving the desired results.
Yes.
But there are challenges to getting to those desired results. And I would imagine over the last 2 years, you might have had some of those challenges. So how are you overcoming those challenges to get to your desired results?
Well, I think the biggest, first I want to give props to the Hill School when it comes to efficacy, because I have learned so much about running things well or better than I maybe normally do through just being around people that run a tight ship. And the Hill School is so good at that. And so I just feel like I've been mentored by the folks there in so many ways, and that helps the work that I do in the community to be better, because I have this incredible source of support behind me. And I know from talking to other nonprofits in Pottstown that are one people shows that they don't always have that. And so I'm just that really is a big piece of the success of the performance as the Hill School. But I also think when you talk about challenges and what would keep us from the desired results, a lot of it has been negative perceptions about the Hill School, and so that's been difficult to know how to overcome. But it's one day at a time, and it's relationship based, and you just have to keep plugging away at what you know how to do and educate people as much as possible about your mission. So I just do that a lot.
So it's engagement and education, isn't it, to overcome challenges?
Right.
So, boy, I would imagine that that's going to help you get to the desired results a whole lot faster.
Yeah.
I would imagine when you take something like this on, that there can't just be one owner of all of this. There has to be ownership throughout the entire community and everybody who's trying to make it better, correct?
Yes.
So how did you overcome or expand the ownership?
I decided early on that I wasn't going to do anything by myself. And while I did, because I had to in the beginning, just to get some things going, but whenever possible, I looked for a partner, another nonprofit or a business, or even just people in the neighborhood. And what's the fun in taking ownership of something yourself anyway?
You're right.
It's all about, it really is about the people you meet and the way that you brainstorm around something, and then you all can celebrate together when you've succeeded.
Get excited about it.
So that, to me, was just like, that was half of the win right there, is getting some strong partnerships formed. And that takes a little bit of work. It's time. I think the first 3 months I met with 300 people, honestly. Like, I just networked. I tried to meet everyone in town. But it was great, because then when we had something going or someone else had something going, we just texted each other, made a phone call, said, hey, can I count on your support for this thing, or vice versa? And all of a sudden you have people working together towards similar goals.
And I mean, ownership has to happen that way, because that's how you're going to get to the collective great.
Yes.
In performance.
Yeah.
Right? So performance is your first step in the strategy, your efficacy in knowing what the desired result is to get to that great performance, and how do we overcome challenges. You're driving ownership and accountability here, and that drives responsibility and who to be responsive to, I would imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
So this second P in the acronym is possibilities. So you have to think in possibilities. So what's possible by doing this work?
Anything's possible, and that's what I always say. And when we first went through this framework and I thought about that's really all I could say. I don't like to limit my own self. I don't like to limit other people. So I would like to think that Hobarts Run could be anything from a thriving neighborhood district, which I believe it will be, but it could also be a catalyst as far as revitalization in Greater Pottstown, because the Hill School is an anchor institution and it has a lot of connections. And so if we get behind an initiative, that is part of our contribution, that we know how to pull resources together and kind of throw it at a project and help to make it happen. So I think that's one piece about anything is possible, because we just don't know, sky's the limit. I'm excited to see what happens, but I know I'm not going to say, well, this or that is where this ends and that means success.
No, because
anything could happen.
It leaves so many opportunities.
Yes.
You'll leave them in the dust if you don't have possibility thinking, right?
Right.
All right, so briefly tell me, there has to be a way. The L in the word people is about linkage, and it's linking to the goals and objectives that are important. You've got to have measurable results, correct?
Yes.
So I would imagine that there are ways you are linking everything you're doing.
It goes back to the partnership for me, because that's how we I think collectively when we sit down and we look at the goals, not only for our own organizations, but for Pottstown, we're always trying to link our strategies and to make sure that even as we're getting wins for our own goals, that it's contributing towards a bigger picture. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does, because it's inclusive.
Right.
You're not in a vacuum again.
Right.
Right? And so you're linking to your own goals in your own initiatives, but it's also a greater good.
Yes.
And neighborhood, right? Evidence, that's the E, evidence. Is there progress? Is
Yes.
there validation? Is
Yeah.
there, give me a quick example.
Okay. Well, I recently had a neighborhood meeting where I spent an hour going over the 12 goals I had in mind for 2017. So I'll just read a couple of those, because that's really when I think about 2017, and now this was our second year, and what I'm proud of this year, it's some of these things, and that to me is the evidence. So one of my goals was to begin 3 real estate development projects, and so without going into a lot of detail, which could maybe another time, but they are underway in different levels. But to open this office, so we're sitting in the Hobarts Run office at 701 East High Street, and that was an undertaking of about a year to get it, the Hill School acquired it and then has made a beautiful space here for Hobarts Run. And I think people in the community are like, okay, now we know you're kind of serious. Like, you have a nice space here that you're opening up to the, we held our first ever Investors Summit at the Hill School, the Pottstown Investors Conference, and Governor Wolf came and spoke at our opening night. So that was amazing. Had a lot of people come out for that. We became our own 501c3 entity. Hobarts Run was one of the founding members of the Pottstown Housing Coalition. So for the first time, we now have a one-stop shop for housing in Pottstown. We increased methods of communication with the residents, so including a block captain program. We meet every month, different people, residents from Hobarts Run, and we talk about, issues in the neighborhood. Goodness, where are they? I could tell you a few more, but I don't. Oh, there we are. Okay. And I know we have to wrap up, but there is evidence, Toni, and it was encouraging for me, even as I was preparing this. I was like, wow, we did a lot in 2017. Yes. Like, we installed 4 safety cameras at areas where there was a lot of crime. The partnerships, like I mentioned, with the downtown organizations, with the Hill faculty and staff. We're working on getting designated through DCED as a Keystone community. There 1 or 2 businesses have relocated now to Pottstown as a result of hearing about Hobarts Run. So it's been great.
Every single piece of evidence impacts people. And so to have the strategy of the performance and efficacy and ownership and the possibility thinking and how you're linking it together, driving all of that evidence, I can't wait to hear more stories under each of those, how you got there, what your strategy is, and how you're moving everything forward that you're working on. That's exciting, Twila, and thank you so much for telling your story here today.
Thank you for having me.